Okay, hello and welcome back to our Dishonored semi-fake Iron Man playthrough. Don't know how to call it anymore. Let's continue with the Brigmo Witches. If I remember correctly, I was going to enter the Riverfront district. Okay. Eliminate. Okay. Three charms to
Rigfield's a hard man, but he's not as fun as Lizzie. Lizzie enjoyed it more.
Yeah, even Lizzie never drowned victims in a sack. Still see him squirming for air.
Yeah. How's he gonna top that?
The mutineer Edgar Wakefield has drowned a gang member that was loyal to Lizzie and sank him in the river. Okay. Exactly why do I care about a dead man? Drowned?
Edgar Wakefield is on board the Undine. He's put all of the eels on alert since Lizzie's rumored to have escaped from Coldridge. He's expecting her. You will undoubtedly be a surprise to him.
You know what? I need to read books. Now that I see this book, I remember I need to read books. Monsieur Garfield was seen scouting in the Yuan and her crew, but they teleported away. Okay. Witches. I would wager. Yeah, let's read books, I'm sorry for that. Whew. Remember that the overseer, okay. Keep the hackers away from the eels. The Section D Cell 11 tried to attack former dead eel leader again. We can afford, okay. Transfer orders. The hatter we brought in was trying to stash his loot in the canal when we busted him. Looks like he's the one who lit Lord Bremon's carriage a few nights back. So far he has not named his accomplices, but he will once we get his turn interrogation room. Document everything and deliver it to the Lord Regent's office. Make sure none of it gets lost along the way where it's both our heads. Document request. Dear Officer Ashfield, I would like to most humbly Request access to documents concerning the experimental choke dust which you have recently found yourself in possession of. Understand this is a delicate subject matter and I assure you every precaution will be taken with the documents to ensure they remain confidential. If access to these documents is agreeable to you, please have one of your men deliver them to my cell. Your friend in A25. Okay. Cell control instructions. I think I read this one. Remember to take extra care in logging transfers and temporary transfers of prisoners from one cell to another must be recorded in the logbook. Ensure that logbook is available in the guard's booth between the section C and D. Elizabeth Stride, aka Lizzie Stride. Or Lizzie what, I don't know. All logbook entries must contain prisoner name and their destination, cell number. The logbook is on the guard booth. Okay. Attention, executions personnel responsible for enabling the escape of former Lord Protector will continue today. Execution yard remains off limits unless otherwise specified. Additional security installations along the execution yard are complete. Additional work on the main gate will continue throughout the coming days. All workers must show identification for the construction, the wedding recreation. A dangerous experiment. I have come across some old writings that hint at a bizarre ritual that I'm going to use to prove to you once and for all that all this mystical stuff is just superstition. When I get back from my mission in the sewers, we'll do this. But there's a trick. You'll need a bride. Ha! Near as I can tell, she doesn't need to be willing. She doesn't need to even awake. By the outsider eyes, I don't think she needs to be alive. So you can secure a bride if you can, and I'll officiate this mock wedding. Hello, Griff. I hope your business is going well. If you are interested, I have a little business proposal. The canal here in Drepes World has been dry for some time now, enough time for the priced ox rust to make bloom in the mud. None of the ruffians patrolling this area know how special the flower can be, so I have no competition in harvesting them. But none of the alchemists or natural philosophers that can use them frequent this district anymore. Perhaps I can send you some bunches of ox rush to peddle for a commission, of course, and I can help you tap into an ammunition market here in Draper's World. The gang have the gangs have got into full scale walls, so demand is high. Let me know your thoughts. Don't accept this as a small token of my appreciation for the work we did together in Roth's Wild Palace. My sources say that this is the sort of thing you would go out of your way to find. May it protect you or empower you or whatever these things do. I hope we find ourselves on the same side of a cause in the future. You are a great ally, AA. Complaints from a dead ill ward. Guard, this post is awful. I almost broke my neck getting up here. And all day the hatters keep taking shots at me like I'm some kind of carnival game. This morning I saw some lady up in the glass roof across the canal, and it kind of has me worried. I think she looked right at me. How would she get up there? Are the hatters recruiting ladies now? Anyway, since she's been up there, I can barely make out this thing she left behind. I can't tell what it is from here, but come nightfall I might just climb up there and have a look. Gotta be wary of that arc pylon they set up down there. If they have that kind of gear, we're just outmatched. I wish Lizzie was back. She would get us out of this. My dearest friend, my costume ball will require two tailored outfits that are perfectly matching except for color. We're going to play a game with our guests, you see. I am saddened to hear of your deteriorating hands and the hard times on which you have fallen, as you were my first choice to craft these costumes. I will mention your physical difficulties to my doctor at the party. Perhaps he can be of some service to you. Okay. Warning from an anonymous friend. Hello, friend. As instructed by Your Wailers, I have dredged this horrid thing from the depths of the storm drains and placed it in the agreed upon location in hopes that you and only you record it. Be warned, poor fortune has followed every step of the way since laying hands on this thing, and I'm overjoyed at the prospect of leaving it here and being done with it. May it treat you better than it has me. And if for some unlucky local has stumbled upon this wicked bone, heed these two warnings. As I have said above, my poor fortune will find you. But more importantly, this is intended for delivery to the most dangerous man in the Empire. If you are in possession of something he wants, you may count your remainder hours in one hand. Well, they really think I'm bloodthirsty, don't they? A fucking crazy, bloodthirsty asshole. Okay, our pilot instructions. Be cautious with the equipment. It is very delicate and requires a skilled touch to operate. It's also quite lethal, so if you do not follow the proper procedures, you will cease to exist in the wink of an eye. Acquiring this technology took a great deal of politicking and expense, so I repeat, do not be reckless with it. Once the system is set up and operational, we will never see a dead eel darkening our doorway. The mill will become an impregnable fortress. Report any technical issues. Jasper! One of the dead eels apparently trained some of the white rats to come to his side of the canal and fetch shiny objects back to him. So far, they've taken a few cones and a couple of bullets back over into eel territory. Pike saw one carrying a coin and tried to shoot it, but his marksmanship is lacking. Ha! Be wary of them and crush the little things if you get the chance. If one swipes one of the tools or keys or something like that, you will be a laughing stock. Out of business. To my loyal customers, I've done my best to provide a provisioning service to you ever after the decent citizens have abandoned Draper's Wood. But now it is clear that there is no livelihood for me here now, and that association with you all will eventually cost me my life. To those who have never wronged me, I suggest you make your business to your home. He can be found on the second floor apartment of a stone throw away from here, next to the millenary canal. His prices will climb now that I'm gone, but he seems to be a fair enough man. For those who have harassed me, stolen from me, and driven me from my home, I hope you suck at the barrel of a city watch pistol someday. I'm sure you will all meet violent and unhappy endings. Goodbye. Notes of a Hatter spy. Mr. Hat, there's been an interesting activity since our raid on the deals a few days ago. It looks like Wakefield has been rooting out Lizzie loyalists and chasing them off or making an example out of them with some gruesome killing. I don't think he's got much of a hold on this gang and things are likely to fly apart before long. Also, I swear I saw a woman lurking in some nearby rooftops last night, spying on the eels. She saw me looking at her and just disappeared. Perhaps you will know what to make of this, Oscar. Now for books. The Reclamation of Dunwall, pamphlet published in response to the plague. Dunwall, the seat of power in the known civilized world, the Empire of the Isles. It is our great capital, and it has been brought to low by vermin, the very tough ghouls. We are faced with the reality that our once great city is in a state of shambles, and the few remaining domiciles in any habitable condition are the estates of those wealthy enough to ward themselves against that reality. A city cannot continue to thrive populated only by the upper classes and their cloistered sycophants. Even if the plague were gone tomorrow, in its present state, Downwell doesn't have enough hardy people of working age to return the city to everyday function. We must find a way to attract more residents, which requires removing the cloud of fear brought about by the current regime. The Lord Regent and his lackeys are bad for business, my friends. So it falls on us. A plague and a tyrant must be overcome. And after that, we must undertake a third miracle, turning the screws on these obscenely wealthy. on the obscenely wealthy, forcing them to pay back into the place that has given them their privileged lives. It is the powerful and fortunate who must pay for the rebuilding of Dunwell, even if the poorest will bear the stones and timbers of reconstruction on their backs. All this must happen for the dormant machine of commerce to restart. Without that, we are all forfeit, and the greatest city of our age will be lost. Yeah, nothing like some sort of capitalism populist argument. Ports of Call, Guide to Port Cities Across the Empire. That's a very awful name, Empire of the Isles. Okay. Potter's Head Griscoll, a small town, but the locals are charming and the ale is unmatched. Be certain to visit it during the month of winds for their pennant festival. Dunwall, Griscoll. Notes on the capital city could fill a dozen such volumes. All the lights exist in Dunwall if you got the coin, and all the mysteries if you are broke. The miseries. Unless you are well connected through someone in Dunwall Tower, one of the key families, the City Watch or the River Patrol, make sure your permits are in order. Otherwise, you are likely to have your cargo seized by the port authorities for any reason they care to concoct. Kilkenny Morley. While the harbour master here is particular about the kinds of goods you're carrying, the rest of the town is more lax. Be sure to visit the inn on the rock for the best mutton stew in all the Isles. Euro Tibia. The cold here will snatch the breath from your lungs, but it is met in equal strength by the civility of its well-mannered citizens. The cozy taverns are kept warm by their famously crafted iron stoves, though the northern food takes some adjustment. Bejeweled aristocrats laugh and drink side by side with weathered, leathery-skinned farmers, clapping one another on the back until the dim hours. It is hard to make a friend here, or to truly understand the worldview of the native born, but once you do, you will have a friend for life. Culero Cerconus. The city is crowded in the warmer months, and for good reason. You'll find yourself shoulder to shoulder with scantily clad locals and foreigners on holiday, pale skin burned pink by the sun, since somehow seems larger and brighter, which somehow seems larger and brighter in Cerconus. The food in Culero is a shining example of Cerconian cuisine, and there is always music, always dancing. Hand roll on the steps of tobacco shops. The cigars are, of course, fresher than the ones had shipped to other parts of the empire. Karnaca, Cerconus, the jewel of the south at the edge of the world. The city is bustling with industry after a wave of settlers from Morley, and an influx of wealthy trading companies from Dunwall. Everywhere you go in Karnaca, there are new ideas, hybrid forms of music, groundbreaking theories of natural philosophy, and even extravagant delicacies made by mixing ingredients from all the cultures. The locals whirl tirelessly for their coin, welcoming the elite from across the Isles. The Metaphysica Mysterium. Band work on a supernatural ritual. I have read this. Thomas's Journal. Our trolls began with a name, Delilah, a mystery given to doubt by the face he sees in his dreams, whose voice he hears when kneeling on the shrines hidden in the lost parts of the city. None of us have ever heard his voice, but we know its power. It spoke to our master, telling him of his coming doom and saying that solving this riddle was the only way to escape. We knew nothing of Delilah except that we found a whaling ship by that name, a tenuous connection. But where the outsider world is concerned, there are no coincidences. We discovered that the ship was named after a woman who once. Really, he's just recounting what I did. Okay, let's see. For some time, she had been working her corrupting influence on the best of us, the assassin Billy Lurk. They later turned Lurk against us, and together they sold us out to the overseers. When we returned to our hideout in the Flood District, we were swarmed by them. Now our resources are strained. Some of the men are grumbling. I see the strain on Dowd's face. Killing the Empress, handing over her daughter, those are not easy burdens to bear. And Lurk's betrayal weighs on him heavily. His sleep is troubled by curses and shouts. Now we make preparations to strike back at Delilah. She's planning something in Brickmore, something that affects everyone on the Isles, and she will be expecting us. Like our master, she shares her gifts from the outsider with those who follow her. How many are there, I wonder? I have no secrets from my master. My loyalty is without question, but I fear these may not be the last days of the Wailers. Perhaps the last days of Dodd. The Isle of Cerconos. Yeah, I read this. The Wailers. Organized crime activity. One gentleman of advanced age swore that his brother had been taken by the Wailers, a notorious gang associated with a man called Dodd. According to Peter Mansfield, his brother Ralph was proud of working with the Royal Spy Master's Responsible Citizens Group. Feeling no shame in reported what he perceived as shady dealings by his rivals at the fish markets, but this might have been the source of his trouble. On the sixth evening of the month of Hearts, Ralph came storming to Peter's home white-faced and panic-stricken, claiming he had been chased by a group of ruffians wearing the leather suits and vapor masks used by men working in the whale factories. Peter gave him supper and drink, sending him on his way later that night, after which Rodolph was never seen. The Knife of Donwell, a survivor's tale. Street pamphlet of the assassin Dodd. Gentle reader, be assured that your coin will be well spent today. What you read here may one day preserve your life and your sanity. No one has seen the Knife of Donwell and lived to tell the tale until now. The sun was setting, a bloody stain across the sky, silhouetting the charred ribcage of the slaughterhouse. The stench of burned meat, the flesh of men and whales soured the air. Dodd erupted from the ashes and timbers, his body wreathed in flame and rent, with injuries that no mortal man could have survived. His shadow stretched out before him on the ground, and it revealed his true nature, a horned thing wrapped with heresy. By heresy. A shape too terrible to put into words, my gentle readers. A sorcerer from the void, without question. I could hear the moans of the dying workers beneath him in the roll of the slaughterhouse, but he did not even pause to acknowledge their plight, for his heart is colder than Thivian ice. Instead, he let out a guttural howl of victory, the shock of which snuffed out the life of those poor dying workers, and then he bounded away, moving from roof to roof back toward the streets. And this was where I thought this chapter would end until I heard the music. The grinding metal music of the overseers echoed from nearby alleyways, and I knew there would soon be a fight. With only my sense of duty to the fallen citizens of Donwell to keep my fear from overtaking me, I inched closer to the mouth of the alley for a better vantage. A brave contingent of overseers had captured one of Dodd's lieutenants lurking in the alley. Well, this is actually true. He or she, for I could not tell beneath the thick leather of the industrial whaler suit, was prone and tied with sturdy ropes surrounded by overseers. But their fixation was ultimately their undoing. Dodd fell from above, moving through the air as easily as a falcon. I swear it upon my spirit. Without sound, he glided down among them, and the music maker was the first to die as Dodd tore the man's head from the shoulders. The wretched trunk faded into a discordant wail. Then I watched the most notorious assassin of our time, became a flurry of leather, metal, and blood, deflecting bullets and sword blades with ease. The last overseer, no doubt consumed with terror at seeing his brothers fall so easily, sank to his knees and begged for mercy. Okay. That is just fabrication. Not spoke a single word. Die! That made my entrails squirm in my belly upon hearing it. The overseer shrieked like a madman until his max split in two, and though struck by some hammer and chisel, a stream of blood gushed forth from the crack, bathing Dowd's blood boots. I closed my eyes at that point, too overwhelmed to witness any further atrocity. I could only hope that if that foul heretic discovered me next, my life would end swiftly. But when I opened my eyes, doubt was nowhere to be seen. That was the last I ever saw of the knife of Dunwall. So heed my warning, gentle reader. Should you or anyone you love witness a mishap and shall fall across your path, or should you hear the slightless rumor of dark words whispered from the rooftops, then flee, flee with all haste. Interrogation log 425. Okay. Method of torture. Heated metal bolts applied to the feet. Outcome. Prompt missing response at first, but the subject lost consciousness due to shock. Method. Sleep deprivation. Outcome. Disorientation. Subject falsely confessed to a crime as well as other unrelated acts. Method. Water tank. Tank mechanism malfunction. Subject drowned. Method. Engagement with phobia. Spider. Subject divulged the information before the hatch of the spider basket was even opened. The procedures following the escape of Corvo Atano. Following the escape of Atano, the council appointed by the Lord Regent has decided it is of the utmost importance to increase security measures at Coldridge Prison. The recommendations made by this report include structural measures such as increasing the height of walls, sealing ventilation shafts, and ensuring sewers entrances are inaccessible. Additionally, starting at this staffing at the site must be increased to thoroughly cover all exits and maintain observation of all major corridors, especially Addendum. In addition to the new measures outlined herein, the Council has consulted both the Abbey of the Everyman and the Royal Physician, who is also head of the Academy of Natural Philosophy, asking for guidance and equipment in handling of these cases which are more exotic in nature. While we have dismissed reports of the supernatural in the past as all wives' tales and lunatic hearsay, recent months have convinced us that there are matters afoot that we do not fully understand. As such, prison executive personnel are encouraged to welcome the presence of both overseers and anyone working under Sokolov's technical guidance. The sewers beneath Dunwall. Historical overview of the architecture in Dunwall. Across the generations, the aqueducts and tunnels beneath the city of Dunwall have served a variety of purposes. In the earliest days of the city's history, several primary canals were used to channel river overflow during the times of flooding, and for a time it was fashionable for the wealthy aristocrats to commission underground water passages, giving them access to their estates from the Rainhaven River and its minor tributaries. Over the years, these tunnels began to interconnect and fill with garbage, sometimes by design and sometimes by accident. The history of the tunnels is rich. As every school child is taught, rebels used the sewers extensively during the Morley insurrection. As discussed in popular bar songs, Lower often find privacy in some of the cleaner entry points, with fresh air brought in on the winds from the river itself. On a darker note, in addition to seeing traffic from gangs and smugglers, it is rumored that the current royal spy master himself has a network of informants who know the twists and turns of the sewer system by heart. Until recent times, the older tunnel suffered from repeated collapse, creating sinkholes that occasionally consume entire street corners. The current system rarely suffers from such calamity, since the sewers were reinforced and expanded by the city planning department during the rule of Emperor Eohorn Calwin I. The history of the Draper's World, Districts of Downwell, a recent book. This chapter will focus on the once lavish Draper world before the reign of the Coldwind dynasty. The locale held none of the prestige that that it has so recently enjoyed. Draper's World was once a simple manufacturing hub for fabrics and textiles, exporting raw weaves to all corners of the empire. Water-driven mills turned day and night into to meet the needs of the rapidly expanding cloth industries. For decades, Draper's World supported a modest trade until key manufacturers began relocating factories to Serconos and Morley. The price of labor in these places was much lower, and the limited availability of downward river for property, which was required to turn the mills. At the end of this period, declining production and abandoned factories. I don't really think this is going to, give me much of anything. I remember that Trimbles Coin. Norse Trimble, isn't it? The halls of the Academy of Natural Philosophy are thought to be spaces where thoughtful discourse and enlightened tolerance set the tone for debate and learning. It is believed that reason applies above all, and the passions of the greatest minds of the empires are tempered by wisdom and custom. This is the commonly accepted vision of the place, and it's almost always accurate. Almost. Sometimes a protracted debate or disagreement can explode into conflict, and very rarely violence. Such was the case years ago in the month of winds. A young apprentice named Piero Joplin ventured into strange directions of research in the preservation of mortifying tissue, a field that brought him into frequent conflict with a student called Trimble. Joplin and Trimble often debated loudly long into the night, and the content of these arguments was well beyond the understanding of most people of the empire, the author included. The rivalry between the two natural philosophers raged for months, but it is the climax of those events that prompts this writing. The two had argued deep into the night, and the debate sliding into bitter personal attacks. At last they reached a terrible accord. Their mutual hatred culminated in a duel to death with pistols. Under the grey sky of dawn, the greatest minds of the Empire of the Isles gathered in the courtyard in a fashion resembling schoolboys gathering to watch the two bullies fight. A quiet fell as Joplin and Trimble accepted ceremonial pistols and marked off the paces, turned and fired. Each combatant fired round after round, shattering windows, clipping masonry, and splitting plaster. The closest shot to the mark was Joplin's, whose bullet ripped through the helm of Trimble's overcoat, and it was clear that the dedicated study of the learned men had made for poor marksmanship. When all their ammunition was expended, both parties stood quivering with fear and rage, but unharmed. It was then agreed that the duel would be settled with a coin flip. A newly minted coin of the Empire was produced bearing the face of Empress Jessamine Cadwin. As it was sent spinning into the air, Trimble called heads. The coin landed tails. Joplin was declared winners, and the feud between the men ceased. By the terms of the dispute, Trimble was forced to leave the academy. His studies left incomplete, whereupon a dignified silence returned to the halls of the Academy of Natural Philosophy.